They launched the Inquisition in Spain. They were responsible in 1492 for the expulsion of Jews from Spain, which was the beginning of a period of religious warfare which continued until 1648, when the Peace of Westphalia ended religious warfare. Then Europe began to develop. But then the Venetians came back in a new form. They came back in the form of Venetians would change their identity and move up to the north into England and to the Netherlands. And there they would adopt Dutch names and Dutch peculiarities, dikes and so on. They would also do the same thing in England. The Cecils, for example, of England, were essentially a Venetian family, controlled by the new faction of Venice, which is that of Paolo Sappi. So this faction of Anglo-Dutch liberals came out of the middle of the 17th century as Anglo-Dutch liberalism, which spread in an organized form through the Dutch India companies into England itself, especially through the 1688-89 takeover of England by occupation. And then in 1673, as a result of the Anglo-Dutch liberals organizing warfare throughout Europe, the Anglo-Dutch financial interests became dominant in Europe. And you had the establishment in 1673, at the February Treaty of Paris, of the hegemony of the British East India Company over the world. That is, the trade of the world, the trade and organization of the world was dominated in international trade by a maritime power, the British East India Company. This was an empire. This is what the American Revolution was fought against. The American Revolution was a fight to establish the idea of the Republic as understood by Solon, as understood by Plato, as understood by the 15th century Renaissance, and as understood by the Treaty of Westphalia, and so forth, to establish a republic in opposition to the Venetian-style imperium which ruled through its control over the power of international money and money rates. That is the British system. Now, the United States is the only nation, the only national system, which with the so-called American system of political economy, has ever successfully challenged the British system. But the British system today is still the system of usury. Now, therefore, the way we run our economy is a form of idiocy. The form of idiocy is simply, we say that the performance of the physical economy will be measured by money. Whereas in a republic, we say the performance of money will be measured by physical economy. The performance of economy was measured by what does it mean in terms of the standard of living, the development of territory per capita and per square kilometer, the improvement of productivity, the education and cultural improvement of people through the opportunities for development. Then we look at money and we say, how do we run the money system, which is a necessary thing to have? How do we run the money system and manage it in such a way that the money system does not suck our blood, but the money system is used as a convenience in trade in order to promote trade and to promote investment? Now, this form of dealing with an international system, which was dominated by the Anglo-Dutch liberal philosophy, was what we lived under. We didn't defeat it entirely with the American Revolution. We set a precedent against it. It's called protectionism. How do we regulate money? By protectionism. How do we protect our production against cheap trade? We protect it. We encourage things, investments that are good, by being more generous in our tax rates on things that are useful to society and taxing more highly those things that are less useful. We promote investment in things we need. For example, 50% of a modern economy should be and is basic economic infrastructure, which has nothing to do with the market as such, directly. Indirectly, yes, but indirectly, no. What is it? It's public utilities. It's public education. It's water systems. It's public transportation. these kinds of things. 50% of a national economy that is healthy is based on infrastructure, which is largely long-term investment in improvement of territory and conditions of life. The other 50% is production, or services relative to production, which is private. So what you do is you regulate the economy to make sure that capital is flowing in through taxation and other mechanisms to provide the production and maintenance of 50% of the economy, which is in the public sector. It is in the public sector of the federal government, or the public sector of the state government, the public sector of the county government, or the municipal government. Like your local water system, your local police services, your educational systems, all these things. These are things which should be public expenditure. Now, some of these things can be franchised to private expenditures, what we do. For example, in a state, we used to create public utilities. A public utility would be, say, a power plant. Now you want the power plant. So the federal government or the state government intervenes, creates a facility, builds the power plant. Now it forms a corporation, which is a regulated corporation, as a public utility. And people can invest their savings in these public utilities, which have a generally guaranteed rate of stable return. So the public utility becomes an advantageous way of direct savings by people who buy bonds or in public utilities, or indirect savings through the banking system. The banks depend upon public utilities under a good system for a good part of their deposit base. So you invest in the bank, or you put your money in the bank in turn uses part of this money, which you deposit, to invest in public utilities, which have certain guaranteed protections. Therefore, this is the most secure kind of local investment you could have under the old regulated system. And we destroyed this. We said, we want free trade. We want to cut out things that are not essential to a local employer, which means no school system. We privatize the school system. We don't care about our population as a whole. We privatize the school system. We take elements which used to be public education, we privatize them. You want to get an education in machine tool practice. Well, you don't used to get that in a secondary school. They took that away. You pay for it, whether you have the money or not. In the old days, we understood, we took a young kid out of a school population, whose family had no money to speak of, just getting by, couldn't afford anything. And we take this young guy and we put him in a machinist training program as part of his secondary education. And he came out of high school as a person with a skill and could go on to college with the basis of that skill under his belt. And probably would try to get into engineering or something like that based on that. So we understood the importance was to take people who may not have any money in terms of families, and to upgrade their productive potential. We invest in that. And we are rewarded for that because they develop skills. They make our industries possible. You want somebody to teach you how to put a bulb in a socket? You have to have an educated person these days. It's difficult to find. But that's what we did. So therefore, the way in a sane economy you measure the performance of money is the way the money system works or does not work to meet physical objectives. The physical objective is the improvement of the land area, the improvement of the condition and the health, welfare of the population, things like that.